Thank you. And so I want to welcome everyone to this first community meeting for Bridging Tech. My name's Deanna Daubertine. I'm the executive director, and we will be using these meetings to inform you about our work and share opportunities for the community to inform what we're doing, to share their connections and ideas, and to get involved. So it is my great pleasure today on the 27th of October to introduce some key team members who are going to be leading this community meeting. It is a Wi-Fi pilot project update, and we are covering work that we have done in the San Francisco Bay Area. And we are active not only in the San Francisco Bay Area, but nationwide. So I will be turning this presentation and dialogue over to my esteemed colleagues, and I will be introducing them and sharing what they do with Bridging Tech, and then I'll let them take it from here on. So it is my great pleasure to introduce Tony Chun, who is the leader of the pilot project, and he is the Intel I'm sorry, it's changed its name, but Intel intern, who is doing fantastic work for us. And he and his son, Cody Chun, have been working on this for, I'd say, almost a year now. And then we are expecting at any moment that we will have Manuel Lopez, Director of Special Projects, available, and he will co-present. And we're really delighted that Kobe has been a part of this. He's a student now at the University of Washington in Seattle, and his role is data analytics intern. So they will each share the part that they took on in this project. I'll turn it over to you now, Tony. Thank you so very much.
Okay, can you see my screen? All right, so thank you very much, and thank you for attending the community meeting for today. My name is Tony Chun. I'm a retiree from Intel Corporation as of last year, and as part of the CoGenerate, formerly called Encore.org program, I'm sponsored by a fellowship through Intel Corporation to work with Bridging Tech for a year, and so that's a great opportunity to basically connect retirees with the younger generation of people working in nonprofits, and that's part of the CoGenerate program. All right, so my role at Bridging Tech for the last several months has been head of digital access, look at adding connectivity to the product offerings coming from Bridging Tech. And I'm assisted on this project by Manuel Lopez, who's Director of Special Projects, and then Kobe Chan, who's the data analytics intern. And we are providing an update on the Wi-Fi pilot program that we've been initiating over the last several months. So again, thank you very much for being here. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand, and we'll get to that, or put them into the chat as well. And this session is being recorded, so thank you. We'd like to acknowledge our partners in this effort. So as part of the Wi-Fi pilot project, we work with 3 nonprofit partners. That includes Global Impact Initiative, GII, located in Austin, Texas, Hamilton Families, located in San Francisco, Next Door Solutions for Domestic Violence, located in San Jose, and then Mobile Citizen, who is a nonprofit provider of devices for other nonprofits. And then my fellowship sponsors include CoGenerate, again, formerly called Encore.org, along with Intel Corporation. The agenda for today's presentation: first, we'll describe our overall mission for Bridging Tech. Then the challenge, and the challenge is closing the digital divide for K-12 students who are facing homelessness. Then we'll describe the needs of our partners. We went out to our 37 nonprofit shelter partners to understand their needs for connectivity. And our response to that survey is the Bridging Tech Wi-Fi pilot project, which we initiated back in May. And then we'll describe some of our preliminary results. The program will run through December, so we have some early results that we'd like to present. Some testimonials from the participants along with our partners who were engaged in this project. Some comments on the work that we've done, and then next steps and a summary, and then questions and answers after that. Okay, so a reminder of the mission of Bridging Tech. So the mission is to bridge the digital divide between students affected by homelessness and housing insecurity and the connectivity and devices they need to fulfill their educational opportunities. And so the technology is a key aspect of what we offer. Bridging Tech was founded in April of 2020 at the start of the pandemic. So two Stanford students, Marco Bellon and Isabel Wang, understood that there was a gap. The gap is connecting, providing for online education for K through 12 students at the time. And so that was a huge gap because a lot of these students didn't have computers. And furthermore, they didn't have Wi-Fi either. And yet schooling went completely online, that year. And so because of that, they were not able to connect to their education. And so as part of that effort, what the team did was to basically acquire refurbished computers and distribute them through shelter partners. And so that was a great effort. Up to now, we've delivered over 5,000 devices across the US for these students. Again, the technology is a key aspect of helping them to meet their educational needs. Now, when I joined Bridging Tech back in December, I was tasked with understanding the connectivity part of that equation. And so that includes the closing that digital divide. So again, first of all, was understand the entire population in the US who are experiencing the digital divide, and then look at the subset of that population, the K through 12 students who are experiencing housing insecurity. And so understanding the overall size of the problem, we could sort of sketch out a solution to providing these devices and connectivity. And then the third piece of this would be digital literacy training as well. So the first thing was understand the overall size of the digital divide population in the US. And so the numbers will vary. I went through a number of government and nonprofit reports, and those numbers vary depending upon who did the research and the time frame. But some of the numbers are jaw-dropping, right? 162 million people in the US in 2020 who don't have connectivity. 15 to 16 million students in the US. So that's just the student population. And then 1.6 million students in California in 2021. So again, these are huge numbers of people who do not have access to broadband connectivity. If you zero in on the population in the US who are experiencing homelessness and housing insecurity, those numbers are likewise very large. One number from the Sheltered Point-in-Time Survey of 2021, 326,000 people in the US. Again, the point-in-time survey is basically counting the number of homeless people on a given night in 2021. And so the number of people who are sheltered is 326,000 as of 2021. In 2022, a similar study showed 348,000 who are in sheltered or are in shelters. And furthermore, 234,000 additional people who are unsheltered. So again, huge numbers of people. As we know, this is a huge problem in the US. 174,000 counted in California alone in 2022. And then if we look at the population of the students, so if we look at a subset of that population and just look at the K through 12 students, those numbers are huge as well. I mean, certainly 274,000 students as of 2019 in California. One number we got was 1.4 million in the US in 2021. 81,000 in the US in 2021, part of that Sheltered Point-in-Time survey. 86,000 in 2022 who are sheltered, and then another 10,000 who are unsheltered. Just in New York City alone, 8.7 thousand families and 15,000 children in 2022. Meanwhile, if you look at the number of devices that Bridging Tech has distributed over the last few years, 5,500 devices have been distributed through our shelter partners. So certainly what we've done up to now has been great, but you can see that really it's a drop in the bucket compared to the overall size of the problem. And so the question is, how could we make a bigger impact possibly on solving some of these issues for the students who are experiencing housing insecurity as far as providing broadband, Wi-Fi connections, and then devices as well. Next thing we did was in February was to go out to our shelter partners and try to understand their needs. And so we created an online questionnaire. We distribute that questionnaire to our partners. The goal was to understand the Wi-Fi usage within the shelters to try to guide a strategy to deploying Wi-Fi, again, to connect up some of these students to broadband if possible, and also learn about some additional needs of our partners. And that could include additional tutoring, mentoring, online training, etc. Now, we distribute laptops to 37 partners across the US. And so we are very valuable, have very valuable connections to our partners. We received responses from 15 out of these 37. And some of the key results I'll describe now. One of the first questions we asked was, do students use Wi-Fi with their Bridging Tech computers? And unsurprisingly, the answer was yes, 92% of the time. And so certainly the students do use Wi-Fi to connect their computers within the shelters. We also were curious about their non-Bridging Tech computers, and the answer, of course, was very high as well. 100% of the computers are attached to Wi-Fi within the shelters. So that shows you that Wi-Fi usage, of course, is prevalent to meet the educational needs of the students in the shelters. We asked our students using Wi-Fi that is installed in the shelter, and the answer was yes, 85% of the time. Now, of course, it's problematic if they do not have Wi-Fi installed in the shelter. That means the students have to go to public Wi-Fi, for example, what's available, say at libraries, restaurants, etc., to attach, and that's certainly problematic from a safety perspective. And then once the families leave the shelters for transitional housing, this issue is even more pronounced. We did ask how long are the families in the shelter, and the answer varied from several weeks to a year. And so it's, of course, great when they leave for transitional housing, but they don't have Wi-Fi there. So that's where there's a huge gap as well. I think certainly what's clearly indicated by the partners is that cost is an issue. So trying to install Wi-Fi in transitional housing for this, for these families is certainly affected by the high cost of installing Wi-Fi. Technical assistance, so having the expertise to install Wi-Fi and the broadband connection is an issue as well. We asked then, what is the target price point for Wi-Fi for the families? And the answer was $0 to $25 per month per family. So that gives you sort of the price point that would make it feasible to have Wi-Fi available to these families. So to summarize some of the needs of our partners, based on the survey results, the need for computers from Bridging Tech is still there. And this is even with return to in-person school as of earlier this year. And so we can see that certainly devices such as laptops are necessary for students to do their work, do their homework, to connect to learning software. All of those kind of applications are essential for them to succeed in school, even with them going back to school, physical school. Partners have mostly have Wi-Fi already installed in the shelters. They can be improved in some cases. The partners also indicated they would like to have online tutoring and job training, as well as digital literacy training. So these are gaps in the curriculum that's available at our shelter partners. And so something that we could possibly support would be some of these needs. And then finally, Wi-Fi mobile hotspots, would fulfill the family's need for Wi-Fi when they leave the shelter. So this is certainly a solution, easy technical solution to have for the families. There's very little expertise required to install the devices compared to installing broadband in a transitional housing location, for example. Actual hotspots were requested by 8 of the 15 partners, and a further survey we conducted afterwards, the numbers were huge. They would like to have on the order of, say, 1,500 Wi-Fi hotspots per year for the next 3 years, for example. as well as computers, roughly about 1,000 computers per year as well. So, those needs are certainly are out there from our partners. As a result, this led us to launch our Wi-Fi pilot program this past summer. Really want to understand, could Wi-Fi hotspots fulfill this need that the families have when they transition out of the shelter? So we initiated our Wi-Fi pilot project back in May. And the goal of this project was to prototype Bridging Tech's device distribution system, along with providing digital literacy training and to test our support processes. And the goal of this was to provide a seamless experience for our partners and the students. We wanted to make it easy to distribute devices and also to provide the training that's necessary to safely and effectively use these devices as well. And then if they have a problem with their devices, have a means for getting back to us so we can help them solve these issues. The last thing you want to have happen is to have a family and student get frustrated because their laptop wouldn't boot or their Wi-Fi wouldn't connect or something like this. So we wanted to have a mechanism available to support them. We also wanted to receive feedback from the participants on the value of the Bridging Tech laptops and Wi-Fi hotspots, for meeting their goals. There are two cases here. One, of course, would be the academic goals of the students. How are they doing in school? Do they think their grades are getting better? Are they more engaged with their teachers? Are they participating in classroom discussions? Those kinds of metrics we're interested in. We wanted to collect and analyze these results, for example, to try to understand the benefits of these devices for the students and their families. In the case of the parents, we wanted to know, are the devices helping them meet their online English training goals, for example, job training goals, finding housing, those kinds of things. So we collaborated on this project with 3 partners: Hamilton Families, Nextdoor Solutions in San Jose, and then GI located in Austin. And so we are very thankful for the participation of these partners in this effort. Okay, so what the pilot project entailed, we provided, first of all, hardware. And so this included refurbished laptops, very nice mid-range business laptops that had been refurbished, along with 30 Franklin T10 hotspots. So I'll show this in a minute what that is. There it is. Provided 10 hotspots per partner. Each of these hotspots also included 1 year of service from T-Mobile at $10 per month. So this is unlimited data. And the total cost of each hotspot with the data plan was around $200 each. The hotspot shown here, this is the Franklin T10 mobile hotspot. This is obtained from Mobile Citizen, who is a nonprofit who provides connectivity for other nonprofits. And so they provided a pretty reasonable deal as far as the cost of the unit, along with the bandwidth that's available. Provides 10 megabits per second downlink and 10 megabits per second uplink. I did a lot of testing of the unit across the country. Well, wherever I traveled to, I carried a hotspot with me just to measure the data rate that I was getting. And so this gives you an idea of the size of the hotspot. So it's very small, very compact, connects to LTE on one side, the cellular network, and provides what's called Wi-Fi 5 on the other side to connect up your laptop. We also provided digital literacy training. So we had training materials available in English and Spanish. We also provided links to existing content in both English and Spanish on the setup process, how to troubleshoot issues, the basics of computer security and safety. And then finally, we put together a career night at Hamilton Families back in August, and we had presenters from Google Chrome, Microsoft, Code Tenderloin, and Farming Hope to present different career options for the residents at Hamilton Families. So very successful, very compelling stories, and great opportunity for them to understand different types of careers. And so this is a picture from the career night at Hamilton Families. And then customer support, I mentioned that it's essential that the families be able to contact someone to get help if they have a problem with their device, so with the Wi-Fi or with the laptop. And so we have a help email, we have a support page, we have a toll-free voicemail that they can contact, and we have a sticker on the back of our hotspot with all that information on it. We provide English and Spanish support with a target return rate of 24 hours to respond to any issues that come in. So we've solved a number of customer issues in that time frame. The last part, of course, is getting feedback from the participants. And so we had 3 questionnaires. We've launched 2 of these, June and September questionnaires. And really that's to get the usage and benefits of the devices from the families and the students. And that was sent through a Google form. We had that available in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Pashto. We had separate versions for the students and their parents. Again, because we figured that both the students and parents are using the same laptop and Wi-Fi. And this was sent to the participants via the shelter staff. And we also provided e-gift cards to encourage responses to our questionnaires. Okay, and next we'll describe the results from questionnaire 1. This is by Manuel and Kobe. I'm not sure if Manuel made it.
Unfortunately, I think Manuel is still having technical issues, but I think I can take it from here.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Tony. My name is Kobe Chun. I'm currently a student at the University of Washington, and I came on to Bridging Tech about 4 months ago as a data analytics intern. And so now I'll share some of the results that we received from questionnaire 1 of the Wi-Fi pilot program. So just to reiterate some of what Tony said, the questionnaire was distributed as a Google form in June of 2023 in 3 languages. That'd be English, Spanish, and Pashto. We had separate sections for K through 12 students as well as adults, and the questionnaire officially closed on August 14th. So overall, we received a 57% response rate from the program participants, with 70% of the responses being adults and 30% being students. And so as far as analyzing the results of the questionnaire, we used 2 main pieces of software. So the first was Microsoft Excel, which we used for the data organization, cleaning, and analysis. So this would consist of things like organizing the short answer responses of the questionnaire and more simple things like calculating certain metrics like averages or percent frequencies. And the second piece of software we used was Microsoft Power BI, which we use for visualizing this data and analysis. And so you'll see the results of that visualization on the next slides. So here we have a dashboard of the K-12 student results. So these were the results from the students that answered the questionnaire. And so we'll start with, in the top left, we have 2 questions basically asking how the Bridging Tech technology, including the laptop and Wi-Fi hotspot, we asked the students how they believed that the technology would impact their educational goals, and we received a high score there. So I think this is very promising because it shows how to these students that we surveyed, the technology was very important for them and succeeding in school. And so we think that this was very promising. Additionally, we asked these students if they were interested in receiving tutoring for school. So we received a 66% response rate, which we also believed was very promising. We also saw that the students were confident using the internet and that they were using the internet for school. Additionally, we saw that the students were also checking their email, which we believe could be good because usually they would be using their emails for more productive activities. And then finally, we asked the students what courses they might be interested in. So we have a pie chart here with the most requested courses, such as the most requested being courses on how to be safe online, as well as how to search for information, such as using search engines. We also had interest in courses on GED and high school equivalency, getting started on computer, and getting introduced to using email. Next, we would have the results for the adult participants that answered the questionnaire. And so similarly to the K through 12 students, we asked them how their Bridging Tech technology would help them with their family goals, whatever those may be. And we also received a high score here, which we believe to be very promising, again, showing how the hotspot and the laptop were really benefiting these people. We also asked them if they were interested in training or mentoring, whether it be job or educational. We received about a 70% agreement on that one, which we believe to be very promising, showing how the participants wanted to sort of advance themselves. And we also received a high score when we asked them about if they were using the internet to search for job opportunities. And then, of course, similar to the students, we asked the adults any sort of courses they were interested in, the most popular of which being courses related to job related software training. So this would be things like learning how to use Microsoft Office or learning to use Zoom, with other courses such as accessing online health information or being safe online also being popular, as well as demand for other courses such as computer programming or English courses. Some additional adult results. Here in the top left, we have a bar chart showing the email checking frequency of the adults. And so for this bar chart, we learned that 75% of the adults we surveyed actually had emails. And of those adults with emails, 78% of them were checking their email more than 5 times a day, which we thought would be very promising again. We also learned that a majority of the adults were using the internet for telehealth medical appointments, which we felt was important because without this technology, they wouldn't have access to that. We don't know how limited their healthcare options might be. We also learned that the adults felt comfortable about keeping their information safe online, as well as using the internet to access their bank account. And then one question that we thought was very important was that about 90% of the adults we surveyed said that they would like to use their Bridging Tech technology to learn English, which we felt was very important, especially considering the population of refugees at the GII shelter. And then finally, in the bottom right, we can see that the participants were using the internet to connect with their family and community, which we thought was very important as well. Finally, for our questionnaire 2, which we released and are still working to analyze, we received many testimonials from participants. So many of the participants were saying things like how the program has been crucial for their professional career development and their children's homeschooling, as well as how they believe that Wi-Fi is important not only as a basic daily necessity, but for their work activity and for online classes, as well as that our program has been very helpful to them for training and securing a job.
Okay, thank you very much, Kobe, for that presentation on the results. In addition, there's some additional testimonials we received from GII. And so back in May, we were graciously allowed to visit GII in Austin on a Saturday afternoon there. Approximately 200 people showed up to receive very limited number of laptops, hotspots, and sewing machines. And so this is primarily an Afghan community. Pashto is the language that most of them speak. As Kobe alluded to in the previous slide, certainly English training, English language learning is important, to this population. Because of the limited number of devices, they had a raffle for the 10 recipients of the hotspots. And then a week later, they asked if we could possibly get more devices for them, or for the hotspots, excuse me. And so certainly a comment here from Andrew Malik, who's the executive director there. Basically, they are profoundly grateful to Bridging Tech, T-Mobile, and Mobile Citizen for helping connect the children who would otherwise be excluded from our increasingly digital world. And so this is certainly showing appreciation for the work we've done with them. And then furthermore, from Aaron Michael Gill, who's on the board of advisors, again, thanking us for the donations of devices and hopefully promoting generational stability for years to come. So again, it's really essential to emphasize here the high demand for having devices, the laptops, hotspots, and in the case of GII as well, sewing machines for work for that the women are working on there. Okay, so comments on some of the results and work that we've done. Certainly, digital literacy training challenges is one thing we observed, and certainly because the partner staff worked directly with the participants, we were not able to train them on how to set up the laptop and hotspots. We did provide content which the staff could share with the participants, the families, and students to how to set up devices, but we were not able to facilitate this training process with them. And that's because of the working model we had with the shelter partners. And then we have a resource page which had links to some of these classes as well, but we have no way of knowing if participants were actually able to access the resources and view the content here. So that's one of the challenges, is how do we ensure that the families and students are, for example, learning about online safety and security. So that's one of the questions we had, is how to improve this process. And then questionnaire 1, as we mentioned, it took a while to get responses. We had to extend the open period until August to get enough responses. As Kobe mentioned, we had a 57% response rate. 70% of these were the adults. What we're trying to do is improve the percentage of students who replied to the questionnaire. So this is one of the questions, is we do want to get more of the feedback from the students. How can we do that in a safe manner, for example, ensuring that we can get their responses. Now, we did provide gift cards for the families as they completed the questionnaire. And so we modified this for questionnaire 2. We provided a range of different types of gift cards as well, again, to encourage more of the students to provide inputs. We also offered Amazon and Target gift cards as well. Unfortunately, we haven't seen that much of an uptick as far as the student responses up to now. So this is one of the challenges, is actually getting more responses, and in particular, hearing the stories from the students is something that we want to try to improve upon in our next questionnaire. Okay, so next steps for the project. In this month, we'll complete the analysis of questionnaire 2. So the data and analytics team, that's Jacoby and Manuel, will continue analyzing the questionnaire 2 results. And then in December, we'll launch our third questionnaire, which will be basically trying to summarize the value of the devices and the usages of the devices by the students and their families. And then we'll analyze those results at the end of the year. And then in Q1 of next year, summarize and present the results of the pilot, based upon these questionnaires and other learnings from this project. So in summary, we know the K-12 students experiencing housing insecurity need laptops and Wi-Fi. This is repeatedly emphasized by our partners. And especially when the families leave the shelter, they will still need Wi-Fi. And so the cost and technical issues are barriers for them to use Wi-Fi once they leave the shelters. Using public hotspots in restaurants, etc., is problematic. You don't want to have a young student out at night trying to get Wi-Fi connections somewhere. And so mobile hotspots will fill this need. Again, emphasize that 8 out of 15 of the partners who responded did request these hotspots. And as a result, to learn further about this problem, we launched a Wi-Fi pilot project back in May. Again, delivering laptops and hotspots to our partners. Students think that the devices will help them meet their educational goals. That's shown in the questionnaire 1 results. Likewise, the parents think that devices will help them meet their family goals. So again, learning English, job training, job searching, etc. The students are using devices for school, which is great to hear that they are using it for school. And they're interested in receiving tutoring that'll help them with their education. And the parents, again, using devices for learning English, job searching, connecting with family and healthcare, and would like training and mentoring. So these are very promising outcomes from the first questionnaire that we did. Okay, and stay tuned for additional results from Bridging Tech in the coming months. So again, thank you very much. And now we have time for questions.
I don't have any questions, but I do have some comments, and questions will come the more I think about this. But for starters, I definitely want to, take my hat off to you guys and applaud you guys for the work that you guys are doing, because, you know, having access to the internet, to number one, the devices, number two, being able to connect with a nice, strong, solid connection, right? As well as having those skills, digital literacy skills to use those systems matter, right? Super essential. You know, the number of laptops that you guys have delivered thus far, 5,000 in what, 3 years? You know, 2 thumbs up to that. I was, what should I say? Not shocked, but I don't know what the feeling was. But to hear the folks say, I think it was 90% of the folks that you surveyed indicated that they would use the system to learn English, right? And just in dealing with the folks that I deal with, my participants at Code Tenderloin, that language barrier is exactly what it is, a barrier. We oftentimes find our participants having to, you know, settle for jobs that are paying not a good wage, let's just say, because they have to settle because of the language barrier. So I hadn't even thought of that piece to it in terms of folks having access in their own convenient spaces, right? When it's a good time for them to sit down and to learn English, right? You know, and in terms of how important these systems are, I mean, it really didn't register to me until the pandemic happened. And, you know, I'm from East Oakland. I worked in San Francisco and lived there for 20 years, but I was raised in East Oakland, and I had moved back to East Oakland in 2020. So, you know, I heard the horrific stories about the children who didn't have systems, and you know, parents, even if they did have a system, the parents couldn't afford the you know, the connection piece to it. And the parents also had no they lacked the digital literacy skills to even be able to help their kids with their assignments, right? You know, we all know how to do Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, but actually, you know, navigating Word and the systems that's needed for educational purposes was a whole different kind of need. And you could only imagine all the frustration, anger, and arguments, and, you know, hits to the self-esteem that came into play by just not being able to help your child with their homework assignment because you lack basic computer literacy skills. So yeah, having those basic computer literacy skills is still becoming super apparent to me how essential those skills are, because we, you know, we deal with folks who are we're being trained to not use the word homeless anymore, but to use the word unhoused, right? That's the new PC word that we're being trained or coached to use, right? Just start coming down the pipe about 6 months ago. So, you know, we deal quite a bit with you know, a chunk of our people are unhoused folks, a chunk of our people are reentry folks. And, you know, there's most often than not, yeah, you know, we send them to the Goodwill or wherever to start off with their basic computer literacy skills, or we may even give them a laptop because we too get laptops, but not knowing how to use that system is a huge barrier. So I know for myself going into 2024, I'm going to really be pushing hard to make sure that folks get, you know, that basic computer literacy training up under their belt, because it matters. And I've seen it matter so much to the point, like, yeah, number one, right? Welcome to the 21st century, right? We all need to use our emails. Number two, we got to look for work, because, you know, we're a workforce development organization. You know, no one's going door to door in the 21st century saying, hey, are you hiring? And can I fill out an application? So, you know, we need these systems and digital literacy to, you know, look for work, right? Send off our resumes. right? Check our emails to see if the folks have responded to us, and do all kinds of extra things, right? Keep in contact with family and friends. And I'm gonna tell you now, the I've watched people's confidence just triple once they start getting down some very basic computer literacy or get some very basic computer literacy skills up under their belt. So I'm just saying this to say that there's there's a lot to it in terms of how much it matters, even from the perspective of how someone feels about themselves when they have a system, they're connected to the system, and they actually know how to navigate the system and use the system to elevate, to start walking in that direction of a change and becoming a different person and being able to access other pieces of the world that can only be accessed via the internet, which is pretty much a lot of things, banking, looking for work. So yeah, it's super important, Yeah.
May I reflect back, Angela? You had such great comments, and it was a delight to have you at Hamilton Family's Golden Gate Shelter as a speaker. The people present said they felt so inspired about all of the job opportunities and tech training and pathways into greater understanding of what is out there that the speakers provided, and you were awesome there. When we're looking ahead, we would like to have the laptops that we give away come with a bridge into all of this information. And we are looking for partners in the community who could build out the coding and the basis to do three things: provide digital literacy, then take the students into how to navigate towards careers in science, computer science, math, technology, things that they are interested in. And then lastly, something that you'd be expert in, Angela, would be the programs that you can participate in that bring you into specialized computer programming or coding skills and pathway programs. And so that's something we're looking to do as a next big project from here. And I think there'll be tie-ins to ensuring there's connectivity. Wanted to introduce the guest visitor, Joe Mata. He's here and he's in Los Angeles now, but has worked in the Bay Area. How does the digital divide factor in what you've experienced, Joe, and what might you suggest?
Yeah, so during the pandemic specifically, I was working at KIPP SoCal Public Schools. They operate 20 schools in South and East LA, and it was a huge issue for us. I think thankfully KIPP SoCal was resourced enough to be able to provide like Chromebooks to students and Wi-Fi hotspots, and there was a large fundraising campaign set around that. But really, like, those solutions are kind of band-aids to the overall issue, I think. And like collaboration obviously is great. And I shared in the chat that recently I was watching a podcast with Robert Smith. He's one of the wealthiest African Americans in America, and he was talking about how he's on a mission to bring broadband access to HBCUs, and something like 60% of them don't have access to internet. And that's from a lot of infrastructure, systems that are set in place, unfortunately. But I think that as we're entering the digital age, as AI is taking off, all of these mission, I think there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration across a multitude of institutions, like bigger, companies and other folks are picking up on this, especially in a post-COVID world. So really figuring out how to lean in and partner with one another, I think is what's most critical, definitely, to address this issue.
Yeah, and there are larger advocacy groups and conversations saying, when does this become important enough that just like other utilities, electricity, water, and the other means of living and surviving, does it become just something that cities provide, something that our communities are given free of charge. So that has been done in some areas. I heard that New York City has done a big effort funded by several entities, mostly the city of New York, and then Spectrum is a partner. So we're looking out to the community for partnerships that could ensure that every student who's experiencing a point of transition gets a hotspot, at least until they can enroll in some of the deeper subsidies or programs, because the pathway is often from being sheltered to non-sheltered to being in a temporary shelter, then off to a pretty distant site where you may or may not have good broadband in the community at all. So hotspots that are strong and can jump onto the internet really take that skill and that passion that young person built and ensures it's sustained into the future. So those are key pieces. And you're right to point to, there are bigger efforts, and should we fight this one piece at a time or in a concerted effort? We're not an advocacy organization at this time. So until we see a movement that we can join, I think we're going to continue to look for partners who can help on a scale that works. But and thank you, Tony and Kobe. You've done an excellent job outlining what we're learning. We're in a phase of going from startup to a little bit more established, and we're just delighted to be bringing this out to more of the activists in the community and partners who can help us think through how do we amplify our voice and work together. And so we'll be continuing this dialogue. Tony, can you share a little bit more about what you think you might learn for the final survey? And are there any new questions that have come to mind that you may work into that last survey, so that we can wrap up with a sense of what would come next, if maybe Joe and Angela can join us for the final presentation sometime early 2024?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the questions have been similar, but the idea is to really understand the evolution of the level of academic engagement, for example, for the students. So for example, we want to understand if the devices are helping them to do better in school. Are they more engaged in classroom discussions? Are they making more friends? Are they more curious? For example, and all of these questions we're asking together combined will give us an idea of whether these devices are helping them to be, better engaged at school, given the difficult transitions they are making in their home life. Can they still sustain and hopefully succeed academically, is what we want to understand. So what we hope to see by the end of this, by the end of December, is hopefully an evolution, a positive evolution of, of their academic learning over the last semester, is ideally what we'd see. And likewise for their parents, similarly meeting their goals as far as getting jobs, learning English, etc. So that's what we hope to find by the end of this. So really, we'd like to see a positive curve, showing better engagement for both the students and their parents as well in their activities. Is what we'd like to see. The complementary piece of this would be additional materials and resources that we could make available to them to help facilitate this process. Again, just having the devices alone is sufficient, but not is necessary, not sufficient to meet these goals. And so the complementary piece of this would be those additional resources to help them on this journey. That's what we're looking at as one of our next steps. So thank you.
Thank you. Any last questions or ideas from Joe or Angela after having heard a little more background about where we're going from here?
Yeah, I just wanted to, when you were talking about potentially getting more responses from the young people, what I was thinking, hold on, I'm trying to turn off an alarm. Yeah, is that you might want to consider, instead of the gift cards, some kind of cool activity, like a Warriors game. I'm not talking about the expensive Warrior tickets, or maybe you guys know somebody could even donate tickets, but activities. The children love activities, and I know that because we do activities with the kids all the time, right? Yep, it's engaging and it's fun. It ain't got to be something like the Warriors game, but I know the Warriors are pretty cool about giving tickets away to, certain organizations or other people will just buy some tickets. It ain't got to be like tickets on the floor, a Warriors game. You in the Coliseum. That's fun.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Something that they would bond over too. They might meet some of the other students that participated, and we would need to find something in San Jose area, something in San Francisco, and something in Austin. So again, we couldn't have done this work without the help of Mobile Citizen for some discounts, and our fantastic Hamilton Families, Next Door Solutions to Domestic Violence, and GII, Global Impact Initiative, a group that funds and resources assistance with settlement for refugees with a large population of Afghani immigrants being who they helped this most recent round in our pilot. So yeah, but finding something in each of those communities could be really powerful and perhaps build more connections between the participants.
Mhm,
Yeah, thanks, Angela. Great idea. Thank you.
absolutely. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to keep following us or learn more, we have a website, www.bridgingtech.org. I bet you're pretty familiar now. Both Angela and Joe have been in touch. And so we will post the next event like this on our social media, Facebook and LinkedIn and others. And in the next one, I'll share more about what our board and I have come up with in our strategic plan and what I'm excited to make happen in the coming 2 years. So I'd be delighted to have you both back, and ideally Manuel can join me and share some of his pieces that he's working on. And we will be in touch. I have a conversation that I want to continue with you, Joe, and I know that Tony's going to call Angela about the coding work that we have underway and would like to build on.
Awesome.
Very much looking forward to the 2-year plan.
Thank you.